Childhood is a crucial developmental phase that shapes our personality and behavior. While many children experience various forms of adversity, certain types of trauma can have a profound impact on children's psychological well-being. Let's explore the connection between childhood trauma and the development of narcissistic tendencies. Before diving deep into the relationship between childhood trauma and narcissism, it's important to understand narcissism as a psychological construct. Narcissistic personality disorder, NPD for short, is characterized by a pattern of grandiosity and a need for admiration and a lack of empathy for others. While not all individuals with NPD have experienced childhood trauma, research suggests that early life experiences can contribute to the development of narcissistic traits. There are various types of childhood trauma. Childhood trauma refers to adverse experiences that occurs during a person's formative years. Trauma can manifest in various ways, and the impact it has on individuals can also vary greatly. Here are some common childhood traumas that have been associated with narcissism. Emotional abuse is one of them. Constant belittling, humiliation, and rejection can significantly damage a child's self-esteem, which can create in that child an intense desire and need for admiration. Neglect is another one of them. A lack of emotional responsiveness, neglecting basic needs, and an insufficient parental involvement can lead a child to feeling emptiness and desperate in need for attention and admiration. Overindulgence and excessive praise is another one of them. While it may seem counterintuitive, excessive praise or overindulgence can contribute to the development of narcissistic tendencies. When children are constantly told they are superior, entitled, or exceptional without creating a realistic self-image, they may struggle with criticism and have an unrealistic expectation of themselves and others. Parental inconsistency is another one. Inconsistent parenting, characterized by unpredictable responses, can create a sense of instability and anxiety in children. This can lead to the development of narcissistic traits as a defense mechanism in order to gain control and protect their fragile self-image. Childhood trauma, especially when it's chronic and severe, can disrupt healthy emotional development and contribute to the formation of narcissistic traits. And these traits may include the following. For example, a fragile self-esteem. People who have experienced childhood trauma may develop a fragile self-esteem, causing them to rely on external validation and admiration to maintain their self-worth. A lack of empathy is another example. Empathy is the ability to understand and share other people's feelings, and it's often compromised in individuals with narcissistic traits. This likely stems from the lack of emotional attunement that they receive from their parents during their early formative years. Another example is defense mechanism. You see, narcissism can serve as a defense mechanism against feelings of shame, vulnerability, and inadequacy resulting from the childhood trauma. By adopting an inflated self-image, these individuals attempt to shield themselves from further emotional harm. So how can we break the cycle? Recognizing the connection between childhood trauma and narcissism is crucial for addressing and healing the underlying wounds. For people who have NPD, they may require a lot more heavy lifting and support to guide them through their inner work and break the cycle of narcissism and toxic behavior patterns. It requires self-reflection, ownership of their actions, and a sincere desire for change. However, a person with NPD, the actual personality disorder, will more than likely lack these key requirements, because someone with the actual personality disorder is going to have a very difficult time with self-awareness and taking responsibility for their own actions. It's almost nearly impossible for them. They have a really strong autonomic response against these things, and they have a very strong defense mechanism against these things. So it's really hard. But on the other hand, for individuals who have developed some narcissistic traits as a result of childhood trauma, but they don't have the personality disorder, there are some steps to break free from this cycle. One thing that can be done to break out of narcissistic traits and behavior patterns is to seek professional help. You can engage in therapy, counseling, or coaching, and you can seek a place where it's safe to explore your childhood trauma through an individual who is trauma-informed, and you can learn to develop healthier coping mechanisms. Another thing that can be done is to foster self-reflection. Self-reflection can help gain insight into one's own behavior patterns. This process facilitates personal growth and the development of empathy and self-awareness. Another thing that can be done is cultivating empathy. Practicing empathy towards yourself and others is instrumental for healing from narcissistic tendencies. Learning to understand and validating your own emotions can lead to healthier relationships and more authentic sense of self. Another thing that can be done is building healthy relationships. Developing healthy, balanced relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and empathy can counter the negative effects of childhood trauma and promote emotional growth. While not all folks who experience childhood trauma develop narcissistic tendencies, it is clear that certain types of trauma can contribute to the formation of narcissistic traits. Not only that, but a child's wiring, meaning their nature, can also be a contributing factor. Some children require or crave more attention and recognition. That's just their wiring. Or they require parents to be way more hands-on because they're more colicky. And if the child is not getting the kind of attunement from their parents, then that may have adverse effect, especially if they need lots of admiration and validation to begin with. Not every child needs it. Some need it more. So it's really interesting when you take into account the child's wiring and their environment, their nurture, because nature and nurture have a constant feedback loop within each other. So you have to consider both. If their parents aren't able to attend to them, if they're neglectful or inconsistent, then the child might develop bad habits and bad coping mechanisms. Understanding this connection is essential to break free from the cycle and promoting healing. By understanding the underlying wounds and investing in personal growth, you can move towards healthier relationships and a more healthier, authentic sense of self, free from the grips of childhood trauma.